Because otherwise, what's to stop this trend? So here it is. If there are no changes in the political forces in this country, we will see a command economy, similar to what we saw in the Soviet Union and what exists in Red China and all of the totalitarian systems that's similar to what existed in Nazi Germany, a command economy in which the free market is essentially either anesthetized or dead. People will still be allowed to buy and sell, but there will be no choice as to price. You will work for a wage that is determined by someone else. You cannot negotiate for it. The prices you will pay for things that are available will be fixed by law. Everything will be determined by command from the top down. The cost of housing, where you live, the rent you pay, the amount of money you can make, the profit you can retain, if any, all of that will be determined by political decree. All right? We will see further bailouts along the road, further bailouts and the transfers of wealth from the middle class to those who are in the politically favored class. We will see the further destruction and eventually the total elimination of the middle class. We will see further dumbing down of the population so that they will have less and less chance of understanding the forces that are sweeping them along. If they do not understand the forces, of course, they will not be able to resist those forces. We will see further expansion of the Social Security program and healthcare systems, providing more and more benefits, leading first to their total collapse, because they cannot be sustained on the basis of contributions, and then finally to their total transfer to the tax base. Not just the direct tax base, but primarily the indirect tax base called inflation. It will be totally absorbed by the government, and nobody will ever again talk about how much it costs. It won't make any difference, because you're going to pay it anyway. You just won't know that you will. We will see more false flag operations made to look like terrorist attacks to keep the public traumatized and grateful for additional loss of freedom in the name of national security. We will see the replacement of the dollar by either a regional or an international currency. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. We will see an intensification of the Republican versus Democrat charade, in which people will be convinced even more than ever that by choosing between these two sides, somehow they are being offered a real choice. And therefore, they will be gratified to know that no matter how bad things get, it was their own choice, because they were participating in their own political destiny. We will see increasing public anger and dissent, bordering on rebellion. We'll see the implementation of very efficient crowd control measures, with large numbers of people eventually being rounded up, probably as a result of public demonstrations, and sent to FEMA internment camps. We will see the disappearance or the accidental death of leaders in the freedom movement. And finally, we will see, when you stand back and look at the whole tapestry, you'll see the final emergence of what I like to call a high-tech feudalism in the form of global government based on the model of collectivism. Not a very pretty picture. I wish my ruler didn't project a dotted line to all of these things, but I'll repeat, unless there are substantial changes in the leadership of this country, I see no way to escape any of this. Now, I ended that with a statement that we're heading toward global government based on the model of collectivism. There's that word. I'm so gratified to see in recent years more and more in the writing, the literature of the freedom movement, people are using the word collectivism versus individualism. And yet it's still a strange word to the ears of many people. I'd like to comment on the meaning of collectivism as I see it, because it is the enemy, ladies and gentlemen. If we're going to establish financial security and personal freedom, we must know who the enemy is. We must know what the enemy is. And it's quite common today for people to get all riled up and say, well, the problem is Obama. He's a socialist. But just a few years ago, the same people were saying, the problem is Bush. He's a Nazi. And both statements are true. And yet both statements are false. Because it's not Bush, and it's not Obama, and it's not communism or socialism or Nazism or fascism or all of these isms or these words that people use that they're hard to define because they cannot define them to the satisfaction of everyone. I mean, here we live in a world where people try to divide up. Well, what's your political belief? Well, I'm a conservative. What does that mean? Well, you know, conservative. It means I'm a good guy. Another person, well, I'm a liberal. What does that mean? Well, that means I'm liberal. You know what that means. I'm a good guy. And so we've got conservatives versus liberals. They often agree with each other. Amazingly, when they get rid of those labels and talk about issues, they sometimes agree with each other on fundamental things. You've got left-wingers, right-wingers. They don't know what the difference is. Republicans and Democrats, all of these words. We've got neoconservatives. We got now, what used to be the liberals are now progressives. All these words keep showing up. And none of them can be defined adequately to the satisfaction of everybody in the room. So I felt it was an essential, if we're going to mount a battle against the enemy, to at least identify who the bloody enemy is here. And I found out quite easily from the literature that goes back some time, like 80 years ago, that this word collectivism and individualism, these words, were quite commonly used and well understood. It's only in recent times that we've lost contact with these words. So here, I'd like to just review them for you because, well, as I said, I think we need to know who the enemy is. The whole world, the Western world at least today, is in the grips of a contest between two opposing ideologies. And it's not left versus right, or liberal versus conservative, or socialist versus Nazi, or whatever. It's between collectivism and individualism. Even though those words are strange to the ear, they can be defined, and I think just about everybody can agree as to what the definition is. Now, they may disagree as to whether it's good or bad, but they can agree as to what the definition is. I found that for the most part, most of the collectivists and most of the individualists are very similar in that they all want good things for their fellow man and for their family and for the world. Where they disagree is on how to achieve those good things. They're all basically ideologically motivated people. But where they really get into it is to how to bring about this better world that they want. So I'd like to tick off some of the things. I've been reading this literature for a few years now, and it began to occur to me as I was going through Mein Kampf and the Communist Manifesto and all of this literature, little Mao's little red book and all these things. There were certain recurrent themes that kept coming up that were common to all of these forms, these political forms. And I finally came up with a group of 6 of them, which I found. You could make a larger list, by the way. I'm tempted to add a 7th. I'll tell you the 7th first. It's not on the list. But in all of these regimes, there is the strong, dominant leader. And I didn't put that on the list. I think I have to put it on there. Because people, remember, they like to follow the lead cow. Okay, well, one of the things of collectivism is that they provide one massive, huge lead cow. And in all of these totalitarian systems, if you go into those countries, there are these big pictures of the lead cow all over the street. You know? And so that's an essential part of it. But I left it off the list